There we go, trying to jump on top. You're not getting up now. I'm going to wrestle you to the floor. Oh, this is too precious. What a welcome back. I'm actually quite happy that I didn't see elephants for such a long time. It made me appreciate, how special it is to see them. And we were so spoiled in the Mara. We saw them every single day. There wasn't a day that went by we didn't see these ellies. Oh, sweet. Now, obviously, the biggest question on everybody's mind at the moment is, where did the elephants go and why did they leave? So, child of the universe, you've asked this specifically this afternoon. Remember, the elephants don't hold territories, so they go wherever they want. They go where the grass is greener. They go where the fruit is, flourishing. It just depends. So they're constantly on the move. They don't want to stay in one area for too long. They don't want to, if you will, overgraze, overbrowse a particular spot. So they keep going. It's quite nice how they rotate their paddocks. Not really, because of course these are not paddocks, these are wild animals, and they are familiar with, if you've got horses or any domestic animals, goats, sheep, cows, and you don't have a huge area, you tend to, well, like I just said, create paddocks and rotate them around so you don't overgraze an area. Elephants do this naturally. A lot of the animals that don't hold territories do this naturally. So that's what's happened. These guys have come from the south, so perhaps they went down to the sand in the Sabi River and were feeding along the banks on all the papyrus and other reeds and rushes that may grow down there, and had a good time. But now they're coming back into this area. Senzo, would you like me to move forward just a little bit so we can get those little ones again? I think we might have some obstructions with the trees. Or is it okay still? All right, let's go see where this little one's going. That must be Mom over there. So now you can see, not twins, but just one of the adults, the biggest cow, who I'd assume is the matriarch. Hello, elephants. Just, of course, babysitting. But this one now going, Mom, please wait. I'm exhausted from pushing and shoving my little friend around. Can I please have a drink? Because unlike the other elephants that have to focus on feeding throughout the day, remember, they will feed for up to 19 hours a day, those little ones, they just can play. And they're just suckling at the moment. They will be trying to eat bits and pieces, but how much they're actually chewing and swallowing, I highly doubt that, they're getting much nutrients from there. I think what we'll do, Senzo, is let me go up and around. Let's turn around. I think they may go and maybe wallow. Oi. Right, I'm just going to turn around so that if they do head back to the mud wallows, we'll get a nice view of them. Oh, how incredible is this? Bex, please can you repeat what you said to me? I had my earpiece turned down a little bit lower. My earpiece, the volume. Can't turn my earpiece down. Oh, there we go. Yes. Paula, I agree with you. I suppose this makes up for all the technical gremlins, doesn't it? I think so. So you said, what a way to start the day. Breakfast with elephants. Pretty spectacular. Except the elephants are having afternoon tea at the moment, going into a early dinner. So there they all are, and I think they're enjoying this area, just making the most of the grass. I've had the most amazing elephant sighting here. You may remember it when I first got back, so it was in the first week of March. I was in almost the same spot, and Senzo, you see this termite mound just over here where this little elephant is, well, defecating and urinating. I was standing up on top of that termite mound with David and Rexon, and we were surrounded by elephants, and it was so spectacular. Any of you ever remember that bushwalk that I went on? It was one of the best bushwalks I've ever had in terms of encountering elephants. So we know this is a very popular spot for them to feed. There's a variety of things for them to eat here, from the silver cluster leaves that are still bearing their pods, which I'm sure are tasty, right through to all this lovely tall green grass, and there's a variety of types of grass species here too, and bush willows, all nice things. So it's the perfect place, and a couple of obstacles, and I suppose a tree to rub on if you really wanted to scratch an itch. You could do that too. Perfect. Thank you for coming home, elephants. Right, seeing as though elephants are the topic to start off with, I'm going to send you to James to see what his best elephant encounter on foot was.
Difficult to say, really. There have been so many. I've just suddenly remembered the very first elephant encounter I had on foot, and I was on my own, terrified of the bush completely. And this elephant was in thick bush, a bit like this over here actually. And I was walking along alone, and I heard this branch crack, and I had to go along this road. I'd been given a map, and I had to complete a route. And so I snuck along, terrified, and there he was. And I could just see his backside, and I remember him turning to look at me like this. And perhaps he realized how utterly terrified I was, because he just kind of turned back and carried on eating, and I went. And then I couldn't stop myself, and I had to have a little run for about 20 meters after that. That was my very first elephant encounter on foot, alone. Thankfully, I'm not quite as afraid as I was back then. I was a young buck, 22 years old. Never spent any time on foot in the bush. On the subject of the last segment we had, Tundi and Cub, no luck, tracks around, and I think that she could easily have seen us already and be around here. There are birds shouting all over the place, and I wonder if they're not watching these spots from their high points walking through this long grass, and perhaps that's why we are not seeing them. Anyway, we will or we won't, I guess. Alright, apparently the elephants that Taylor have wish to be in the circus.
I think it does really want to, as it's, well, trying to balance about on this Logosaurus that's in the water. Or perhaps it's just busy with the manicure. Maybe it's using that. And it has not drank any water yet, this young elephant. It's very much interested in that little log. And the others are all walking off. They might be going towards another dam, perhaps. I don't think they'd want to drink from these puddles, but I at least thought that they would have splashed around with it. Now, of course, anything is interesting to a young elephant. And this is not as teeny and tiny as those little furry things that we saw playing around on the road. But what are you doing? Why are you so interested in that log? Just because? What have you got on your trunk? Oh, stamping in the mud. It's not very deep, this little mud wallow, and it's drying out fairly quickly. There's something there. You can see that trunk is working overtime. I don't know what it's smelling. Maybe is it looking for mud? Does it just feel nice? Careful, you're going to slide. That's not very even. It's now going to, maybe it's going to slip and fall like me. Be careful. I've done that many a times. It's standing on the smallest island. It's got all 4 feet on a dry patch at the moment, just dipping its toes in. This is so curious. It's amazing to watch that trunk work. And in such beautiful light as well. Off to the next puddle. There we go. Picked up a little bit of mud. Please don't throw it at me. Perhaps this will turn into a game of clay light. I need to get my stick in some mud. It will only be fair. Look at it. So amazing. So busy. Hi, little one. Are you going to throw it at us? I think you're showing off for everybody this afternoon. I think that's what's happening here. This one likes the attention. Those splashing sounds are so amazing too. Hell, it's not really doing anything, eh? Careful you don't slip. They've got great 4x4 tread, but well, when you're standing on your own toes, it might be a problem. It really is just smelling everything. It didn't pull that plant out. It's smelling the mud, picking it up, throwing it around a little bit. Very busy. See, now this is where I wish I could speak to animals, because I would love to know what's going through this elephant's mind. Perhaps you have an idea. Let's hear it. What do you think this elephant is doing? What do you think is on its mind? Hashtag Safari Live. Let's hear your thoughts. It doesn't have to be so realistic. If you want to get creative, go for it. Let's have a little laugh this afternoon. Miss Parker, you're convinced that this is definitely a balancing act? It seems like that elephant wants to pick up that stone now. And it's wedged in the mud. No, it's now 2 feet on the island, 1 foot on the log, and 1 foot on a stone. Maybe it's auditioning for the circus, although you wouldn't want to go to the circus, elephant. Let me tell you, you've got a much better life out here. Very busy. Safari Live's Got Talent, you're quite right, Rebecca, perhaps. When were the presenters and the rest of the team going to be notified about Safari Live's Got Talent? I know we tried to do it in the Mara, and then that just never happened. Oh, this is beautiful. Let's see if it's going to pull up any of that grass. No, it's still just slushing the mud around. Now, here's something that has happened to me on multiple occasions. Kia, yes, I have been sprayed with not quite water, but I've definitely had mud thrown on me before. In the Eastern Cape, that's happened to me. And then I had it happen to me fairly recently in the Mara too, with this teenage cow who was just having an absolute ball around me. She was throwing a bit of a tantrum, and we just sat there. She didn't really mean anything by it. She was desperately trying to get our reaction, which we weren't going to give her. We weren't going to race away from her, terrified, screaming with our hands in the air. So we just kind of sat there, and she picked up mud, and I'll try and find the video, because there's a small part where she does this, and you can see the mud coming towards me. So she hits, I think Manu was with me on camera that day. She got Manu and I, which was quite funny. And I can't tell you how many dust baths I've had from elephants deciding to just come stand right next to the car and have a bit of a dust bath. So that happens quite regularly. In fact, it's one of the most exhilarating experiences, and I've told you this story before. I think it's amazing. I'm pretty sure you would all love it if you got to be mud bathing with an elephant, or being dusted by an elephant. I had this one guest that was very upset about the whole experience. I was like, I'm never going to wash my clothes again. I was like, I'll just keep these forever. It was the first time that it had happened to me. Everybody else enjoyed it. Right, off you go to Rolf, who's got a beautiful view of some impala feeding.
Thanks, Taylor, and look at that in the golden sunlight as these impala feed a little bit on the silver cluster leaf, which is quite strange because that's, I don't know if any of you have seen, I think Steve was eating it at some stage when he first arrived here. It makes your mouth extremely dry, and I think it's a bit of a purgative. So I don't know if they're eating that to try and settle their stomach a little bit, or if they actually are immune to the purgative nature of those silver cluster leaves. But one of my mentors once said to me when I first started out as a guide, that if you are looking for a predator, or you want to see a predator hunting, you need to wait at the prey, or be next to the prey. So, well, that's exactly what we've decided to do. We've come to Impala Plains, and very apt, lots of impala here, and we're trying to find Hosanna, but we haven't seen any sign of him as yet. So we're just hanging around these impala for a little while and see if we get lucky. And well, while we're doing that, we can just enjoy the sheer beauty of them in this golden light. They've got some of the oxpeckers on them, and they're all feeding as they move through. And if there is any sign of Hosanna, if the wind blows in their favor or anything like that, then they'll pick it up, and then we can pick him up. So always good. You can see the colors nice and clearly there. Call that counter shading, from the dark to the bottom being very light. Ngora, well, a good question, and thanks for asking that. Impala are mixed feeders, so they will graze and browse, and that's one of the reasons why they are so successful, is that they can feed on a very wide range of foods. They can eat grass, they can eat most leaves, and they can eat leaves of all sorts of different plants. And that's why I'm saying there, that's quite special with that silver cluster leaf, because I've eaten a few leaves of that, and it literally almost instantly dries up all the saliva in your mouth. And look at them feeding on it there. And that's quite interesting indeed. I haven't seen impala feeding on silver cluster leaf. Now, there might be other people that laugh at me, saying they see it all the time. But, well, I'm sharing my experience with you, and I haven't seen them feeding on that at all. So that is the Terminalia sericea. All the leaves sort of bunched on in a group at the end of the little branches. And you see, they're feeding on it quite happily. You wouldn't see many animals feeding on a silver cluster leaf. And where you find lots of silver cluster leaf as well, it's normally where there's a high salt content in the soil. And, oh, look at that, cleaning a nose, cleaning them around the mouth. And very fast as well. You see there, I'm wondering, it's almost doing something quite strange. The way she's feeding, it must be quite uncomfortable, because I would really not want to feed on that. And, you know, I've seen impala also feeding on sickle bush quite regularly, especially when they're under the weather. You can see that they're quite, you know, their ribs are showing. And we say as humans that the sickle bush is like the pharmacy of the bush. And I'm sure she's doing that because of the dryness in her mouth. And the way that the tongue moves. It's almost like, you know, sometimes if my dog, my basset hound, if he wants a bit of my peanut butter sandwich, I give him a little piece, and then he also does a little bit of something like that because it gets stuck to the top of his palate. And I don't do it on purpose to watch him suffer. He's just a very pushy basset. But look at that. Very interesting. You see, that's what I'm saying with the sickle bush, with them being a little bit under the weather and them showing their ribs and everything. You know, they go and they feed on a sickle bush, and I'm sure. Oh, bless you, Seb. That was Seb there having a sneeze. I hope he's not getting a cold. And the impala did have a look as well. And it sounded a bit like an alarm call, that. And there the male doing a little bit of marking. This morning I very wrongly suggested that impala have preorbital glands, but that was in the heat of the moment. They do have a lot of little glands on their forehead, and that's what he's rubbing there. Not only rubbing, but he's probably now going to attack that bush, and I'm sure he's going to win that fight. Cenac, thank you for your question, as always. I think one of the most difficult plants for animals to digest would be something like the euphorbias, which is full of that white latex. So euphorbias, like we get very commonly here, is the candelabra, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, candelabra euphorbia. A lot of white latex, and it's quite poisonous, as well as the tambuti, which is also got that white milky latex, very difficult to digest. And in Namibia, obviously, you get a lot more of those euphorbia type plants because it's very desert conditions. And so there's only a few animals that can actually digest that, like porcupine, oryx, and black rhino. Those are very special animals that obviously have some kind of enzyme in their stomach that can neutralize that poison. But I must say that this silver cluster leaf is definitely one of those difficult to digest vegetable matters, and I'm sure that they're doing this for a particular reason. As I was suggesting with them eating the sickle bush with its pharmaceutical value, that's making them feel a little bit better, almost like a painkiller. You know, it's got anesthetic properties in it. It's got antihistamine properties. So a lot of... Now let's watch its throat as it's going to regurgitate. There it comes, up it comes, and it starts to re-chew. But it's got a little bit more sort of difficulty in the way that it's moving its mouth. And lots of licking. Lots of licking. And that says to me that there definitely is a problem with the saliva as they're feeding on this. Maybe it's sort of tightening up their bellies. Maybe it's a little bit loose, so they're looking to you know, just tighten up their stomachs a little bit. And so everyone, there's not much happening here. There's no indication of any predators around. So I'm going to continue the search for Hosanna. While I do that, let's head you on over to James and see if he's been able to find any signs of predators his side.
Well, there's always something to find on foot, and the thing that we found this time round is a perfect summer picnic spot in a grove of gorgeous tambuti trees. Not much grass underneath them, so the chances of getting bitten on the bottom by a tick are very small, which is excellent. Of course, one doesn't want to be bitten on the bottom while one is having a delicious summer picnic. Now, we have circled and circled around like a shark circling its prey trying to find Tundi. We haven't had any luck just yet, and so we're continuing along this gorgeous drainage system which I've never walked along before, and it's very pretty indeed. I'm just going to check if we need to follow Herbert right away or if we can do a little flower segment. I think we can do a little flower segment. Here's a beautiful yellow flower. It is the flower of the flannel weed. It's known as a crotch shot, everybody. One should try and avoid that as much as possible. Beautiful flannel weed there. And it's called a flannel weed because it feels, David, like?
Oh.
Well done. Very good. Just like flannel. And it's a kind of plant that grows very commonly here, but on sites that are disturbed. So they're disturbed by grazing or by footfalls of hoofs. And in this case, probably rhinoceros feet coming down through here. What a magnificent afternoon we find ourselves on. Annie, sorry, that was my brain gathering your question. You say, is the latex in plants the same as the latex used by human beings for gloves and other such things? It's not precisely the same. I think it's processed slightly, and certainly originally it used to be made from plant latex in the same way that rubber is made from plant rubber. I think that the commercially available latex now has probably got a lot of synthetic component in it. There might be some plant-based component in it, but I doubt it comes from something like a tambuti tree, for example. It would probably come from a much more voluminous producer of latex, I suppose like a euphorbia, but I'm guessing now. I'm just kind of I'm making relatively educated guesses, I think. Right, let's continue down through here. I noticed I watched yesterday's show. Oh no, I didn't hit David when I bent down there, I hit my own head. The microphone's in the hat. Sorry about that, everybody. What you would have seen if I had hit David was a fairly substantial fist, followed by a fairly substantial forearm coming round the front and connecting with my bottom jaw. Alrighty, let's go back to Taylor. Very nice to have elephants back on the reserve.
It most certainly is. I cannot tell you how excited I am, although hopefully you can hear it in the sound of my voice. But our elephants have now decided they're going to feed in the middle of this semi-open area. But the grass is so tall that we really can't see them. There's actually the bulk of the herd just behind that big cow, but you wouldn't know it. They're all hiding away. How tall is the grass and feet, is asking Romit. I think it depends. Some of the grass is about 3 feet or so. And then there's other areas like where the thatching grass is, that's well over 6 foot. So I would say majority of it is just under 3 feet. And then there are some sections where it's exceptionally tall. I suppose it just depends on what type of grass species it is. Not all of the grasses get too tall. For instance, the feather-top chloris isn't massive. It doesn't get as tall as the yellow thatching grass. The panicum can get quite tall as well. Common finger grass can grow quite tall as well. It's hard to try and point out. Obviously, I'm not going to get out the car and show you now because there's elephants here. The herringbone grass doesn't get particularly tall. Couch grass is fairly short as well. So there's a variety of different types. A lot of it is feathertop chloris around here. Now, I think if we're patient, maybe in the next 10 minutes or so, the elephants will pop out on Twin Dams Road. Also, please keep an eye out on the dam camera, because there might be some that are already in that area. They're moving north, and we're not particularly far from Vuyatela Dam. I reckon if I did a George of a Jungle call, you would all hear me on the dam cam, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to terrify the elephants. So I'm quite keen to spend the entire afternoon following this herd. I know it would have been nice to have seen leopards, but hopefully Rolf and James will be able to pull those cats out of the bag. I'm going to make the most of this sighting because they are my favorite animal in the whole wide world, and I have not seen them for weeks, which has made me very sad, but now I'm a very happy girl. Come on, Ellies. Can you just pick up the pace a little there? Can you eat quicker and just keep going north? They might take a while, though, to pop out on the next road. But either way, we'll be there to catch them. I'll be there for you. Isn't that the Friends theme song? I will be there waiting for the elephants. Shall we do a loop? Let's see. I can hear some flapping of ears just a little way from here. Maybe one or two younger bulls tailing the herd. That could be a possibility. Right, let's go. Oh, you know what it is? I think there's like a random lone Impala here too. Here, I'll show you it. Oh no, it's not one. There's a few. Let me go around the corner. Or maybe there's just two, in fact. Well, that would be a few here, wouldn't it? These ones are not eating silver cluster leaf. There's 3 Impala. Hello? Where's the rest of your herd? That's quite unusual, don't you think? Very unusual to just have the 3 of them. I wonder why they've separated from the bulk of the herd. A bit dangerous, just only being the 3 of them. Sorry, apologies. I took my foot off the brake there. That was not Senzo. It was me. I think they're listening to the elephants feeding through the thicket. They do look a little bit wary. That ewe right in front is on high alert at the moment. You can see, look at those ears. Before she moves out into the next open gap, just listening, just checking around, looking left and right. Perhaps looking up and down too, making sure that there isn't a leopard concealed in the grass. Brent did a very nice demonstration on Safari Lives yesterday afternoon, and how tall the grass is and how thick the vegetation is, and if there was a leopard just lying about, you would never see it. Off they go. Good luck, Impala. There's one elephant. I'm going to quickly reverse like this so we can get a view of it. Yes, come and mud bath. Is it our friend from earlier? No, this one has got a dry trunk. It's another one. Nandini, yes, Impala are very good at alerting other animals for predators. Yes, giving us the death stare, this little Ellie. Cheeky. That's the area of the back of the car. They've got fairly good eyesight, and they will snort when startled or when they spot something or pick up the scent of a predator. They most certainly will tell everyone else. He was quite cheeky, eh? Okay, let's check down this road quickly to see if there are any more Ellies, because he's going to follow the others and disappear fairly quickly now. Maybe we'll get another young bull slowly following up the back of the herd. Just keep checking and then listening out for any breaking branches, anything along those lines. That will sort of point us in the direction of more elephants. Otherwise, maybe the time, if we go around, we'll catch them. Zach, no, interesting question. I'm going to repeat it. You've asked basically if it's true that elephants are the only animal that can't jump. I don't think a hippopotamus could jump. I don't know. I can't say that I've ever seen you know what? I haven't seen an elephant lift all 4 feet off the ground, but I've definitely seen them rear. They're very good at rearing, pretending to be horses. So technically they're jumping up onto their back legs. So I would say no. I think elephants can jump because, yeah. Would you say that's jumping? If they have to lift themselves off their front feet, Senzo? Rebecca? I don't know. To me, that's they jumping there. All feet off the ground? Okay, well then no, I've never seen an elephant with all feet off the ground. The hippos definitely. They porpoise a lot in water. Then their feet come off of the floor, but of course they've got the buoyancy to help them. So yeah, I suppose the hippo as well. That's why they always say, if you are being charged by something like a hippo, get yourself behind a big... Hold on. Breaking news. Apparently there's a leopard at the dam cam. You see, it was there for the show. And more elephants. We'll come back. Meet us there. We should have just spent the day there. Okay, we're going. Let me just find out on the Emrabe. Are there any stations near Vuyatela Dam at the moment? Make sure there's not an established sighting. Johan, confirm that you've seen a leopard around the dam cam. We just got a report. I had my radio turned down. Are you on lock with anything at the dam? Copy. I'll update you in 5 minutes. Okay, hang on. Hello, Patsy. Okay, copy, Patsy. I'm just coming down towards the dam now. The viewers were saying they saw it on the dam cam. Can I come and join you, please? Meow. How's that? I got to do all my favorite things. Ferrari safari, elephants, and now maybe even a leopard. Patsy, who... Shh, I'm just listening. I'm so sorry. Ooh. Right. We're going to navigate our way through the zebra crossing and the wildebeest crossing to try and find the leopard, which I think is just up ahead, but off we go to James in the meantime.
Well, things seem to be hotting up quite a lot at the moment. We found more tracks, so we've now headed into a slightly different area, down towards the central area where there are a couple of pans, waterholes. Taylor's heading towards a leopard. Perhaps Ralph's heading towards a leopard. Perhaps it's going to be a leopard smorgasbord. Or perhaps we will just look at Gymnosporia buxifolia. Now, if ever there was a plant that tasted more bitter and nasty than the silver cluster leaf that Impala was eating earlier, this is it, Gymnosporia buxifolia. And if you were making a bitter salad for your worst enemy, you would put this in the salad, and then you would take this, the turpentine grass, and you would crush it up over the top of your Gymnosporia salad, and you would feed it to your worst enemy, and they would be so disgusted by what you had given them. Tannin mixed with turpentine aromatic oils. Disgusting. Ugh. Deborah, you're wondering if silver cluster leaves go dormant in the wintertime? I feel like I've lost my mind. Is a silver cluster leaf an evergreen? I think the silver cluster leaf is not an evergreen, so it does go dormant. Remember, very few things go completely dormant. In fact, some trees, same as they do in South America, will in fact become dormant at other times of the year when they can reduce competition. A very good example is some brown ivory trees. Sometimes jaggleberries do it, and they lose their leaves during sort of springtime, when everything else is trying desperately to compete for nutrients and for soil resources. They'll lose their leaves, go dormant briefly, and then get them again when the competition is less. Or is less. That's correct. Silver cluster leaves are like most of the other trees around here. The most common family of trees is the Combretaceae, and they are part of that family. Obviously, all the Combretum trees live in the Combretaceae family, and so I think all of them lose their leaves in the winter time. Which I guess indicates dormancy. It's probably not complete dormancy, but it is dormant. Here is a central road now, Djuma. You can see a very fine example of humanity striding towards us. There he is, backlit by the setting sun. Herbert, what have you got to tell us? No tracks? Okay, Herbert. We'll follow you wherever you go. Right, let's go. So, dormancy is really it's not because it doesn't get that cold here, it's not something that all things have to do at all. And I'm thinking of a tree, it's not something that they have to do in the winter time. I'm thinking of a tree that we have in the garden in the Eastern Cape called a fiddlewood tree, and it's a South American tree, and it loses its leaves in December. It's a disaster at Christmas time. It loses all its leaves, and then round about now it blossoms and makes its fruit. So it's verdant green going into the winter time, and then it's sort of miserable at Christmas time. And that's because where it comes from, it doesn't need to be dormant in the winter, because winter is just slightly cooler than summer. So it's not like any of the pine trees or boreal trees you'd find in the boreal forest that must go completely dormant. Eli, yes they do, and many other poisonous plants. You say, do animals eat tambuti leaves? They do eat tambuti leaves. Are you coming through, David? Oops, no, you're not coming through that way. Try once more. There we go. Eli, they do eat tambuti leaves. We've got elephants that can do that sometimes. Kudu can definitely. Black rhinos specialize in tambuti leaves. Porcupines eat the base of tambuti. In fact, they favor the base of tambuti trees, and they favor the roots. So, yeah, for just about every single poisonous plant out here, there's something that has evolved the ability to eat it, and we as human beings are noticeably absent on the list of poison-tolerant creatures. We can't eat tambuti. If we eat any of that euphorbia stuff that Ralph was talking about, it's really bad for us. Varun, you're asking about teak and sandalwood trees in the Sabi sands. Now, sandalwood, no, definitely we don't get sandalwood as far as I'm aware, but you do get a teak tree. Not so much here, but down on the bigger rivers like the Manyeleti River, or on the Sand River, or on the Sabi River, you will find trees called the Natal mahogany, which is very similar to a teak tree that we find. I mean, it's the closest thing we have to a teak tree out here in South Africa. And then, of course, in the rainforests of Central Africa, you'll find various kinds of teak trees. But I don't think, and they'll be related to teak trees that you find in other parts of the world. Of course we get a teak tree here. We get a Transvaal teak tree, actually. We get two types of teak trees. We get the Transvaal teak, and we get the round-leafed teak. Now, the round-leafed teak tree should be all over the place, but it never grows bigger than this. And it doesn't grow bigger than that because the elephants tear it to pieces. If you let it grow in the absence of elephants, it grows into a tree that you could make furniture out of. And there's one Transvaal teak tree on Djuma, the big one. Brent and I both tried to climb it to get at the pods. We've had a big competition I think in the very first few months that we worked here together to try and get at the pods. So there is definitely a Transvaal teak tree here. Forgotten that. Thank you very much. All right, Taylor is speeding towards the dam. I imagine she must be there. I don't know if she has the leopard.
I don't have the leopard, James, not yet. I'm not sure who it was. Maybe some of you can help us if you did see it on the dam cam. Patsy wasn't sure who it was. However, we did have Tingana around this area last night with Brent, and no one saw him this morning, I don't think. Maybe he was slinking around here. Apparently, Hosanna was seen off of Triple M, and some of the Djuma guides spent a bit of time with him earlier. We didn't go there because we were waiting for the elephants to come out. And then we're also entertaining you on the dam. So, that is not a hole we want to be going into. My goodness, we almost got sucked down. I don't even... behind us. Oh my goodness, we're trapped. Where are we going to go? How are we going to get through this? We can't go here. We're just trying to get out of here. We are in thick vegetation. Super thick vegetation. Now we're obviously bundu bashing off-road here. I'm really hoping it is going to be Tingana. It'll be nice to see him. But anyways, let's jump aboard Ralph's car and see how close he is to his leopard.
Thanks, Taylor. And while everybody, I'm really doing just a little bit of zigzag search here because the last visual of this particular cat, not sure quite yet. I'm going to keep it for you, a surprise for everybody. He was heading into this block, so I'm just trying now to catch up with him. And well, for all intents and purposes, we might not find him at all, but we just need to keep, you know, if he was moving in one direction and beelining it, we may have lost him. But well, we've just got to keep looking out, and hopefully something's going to pick him up, give a bit of an alarm call, and that will help point us in the right direction. So it's all about now just trying to follow up. I'm going to just stop over here in this open area and just listen. It's very quiet. We're not seeing anything for now. We're not hearing anything either. So it's all very exciting, but it could all be very disappointing as well, because it might be that we've now lost him. So I think we need to start up again. There's nothing happening. We don't have a visual, we don't have a sound, we've got nothing for the moment, but we know he was here. So that is the clue we have. And for the rest of it, we just need to be persistent and move around, try and spot him. If he's gone flat, well, then he's an invisible cat. And he's gone. And unless he gets up and moves, or he flicks his tail and we spot that little bit of white, well, then he's pretty much gone. So I'm just going to move a little bit further in here. I'm wondering if he didn't go flat near to the road. I might double back and go back to the road and start all over again, but I just want to head a little bit deeper in first and cover that side of things, and then and sorry I'm not looking at you, everybody. I am now all eyes and ears for this leopard. Need to be careful we don't fall into an aardvark hole. Okay, so there's some Impala over there. He could be stalking, he could be doing anything. Or could be a she. I'm not giving anything away. Alright, well, there's lots of excitement this afternoon, and let's hope that we can catch up with them. Let's head on over to Taylor and see how her search is going.
Well, we haven't found anything yet. We've cut through the block. I'm going to turn around now and go back down. However, I think I may have to change a tire at some point, as we've done some serious off-roading. I apologize. I'm just going to keep looking for this leopard, otherwise we're never going to find him. So earlier today, as I was saying, Hosana was sitting just off Triple M, opposite the power lines, in the west, so I think either on Arathusa or Simbambili, and apparently he was just relaxing there. But I turned my game drive radio off, so I didn't quite hear what was actually going on. So he apparently was walking. Johan, who's also trying to help us find this leopard too, he was sat with him and said that Hosana had walked all the way down Balanites Road, Impala Plains, and then going west towards Triple M. So I think that's who was that side. I'm trying to figure out who would be here. Patsy said it did look like a male and looked quite big, and we know that Tingana was in this area, and I don't know if anybody managed to find him in the area. There were reports of 2 leopards at one point, And, well, the proof will be in the pudding soon, won't it, when we can find one of these cats. But I don't know. I don't know where he's gone. So I'm just checking. The grass is very tall. Let me see if Johan has managed. Johan, have you found anything? Johan is just here. I'm checking because I know these cats can be super sneaky and just end up walking behind you. Not that either of them would be running away from us. I did speak to Patsy. He said he didn't seem too nervous. He walked right past the car. I don't know what type of view you guys got on the dam cam. We'll keep searching. I haven't seen any tracks crossing Gari Cut Line yet. I'm just going to go back and maybe see if this leopard didn't perhaps sort of hide closer towards central. Maybe he didn't go too far east. See, it's difficult when you don't know where exactly they went off. I try to get there as quick as I can. I'm just going to have a little look. I feel like I'm a meerkat now just doing this. I apologize that I'm not looking at any of you, but I do want to find this leopard, and if I keep staring at the camera, I'm going to miss it. Done that a few times, that's for sure. Driven straight past animals. Right, okie dokie. Off you go, back to James, and hopefully the next time you come back to me, there will actually be a leopard.
I think it's most impressive that both Ralph and Taylor think they have Tingana. Not only is he still in the area, but he's doubled himself. That is going to freak Hukumuri out completely. There's no ways that young pretender's going to come and take over this area if there are two Tinganas. Fantastic stuff. Had no idea leopards could do it, but here we are. It's just, you learn something new every day, as they say. Brilliant. We have found nothing useful on the Tundi front, and that is not for lack of effort. So I'm just enjoying my Sunday stroll. Here are some yellow flowers. Come hither, David. Let us look at them. Bundy or Bunny? Bundy. Bundy? Bunny. Bonnie, not Bunny or Bundy. Bonnie, you say, could it possibly be Tundi that hopped over to the dam cam? It is possible that it's Tundi. I think it's more likely to be Hosanna. In fact, I think Ralph is probably on the trail of Hosanna, and I think that Taylor is probably on the trail of Tingana. That's my guess. I have absolutely no reason for really saying that, other than where they were last seen. This a lovely flower, a common one that we often show you, called Justitia flower. But what is very interesting about it is that it has been grazed. You see this? Now I suspect that the culprit for this sort of trauma to the plant was a nyala, and often we see them with their heads in the grass, and people must think to themselves, gosh, these presenters talk nonsense. Look at that nyala, it's grazing, it's not browsing. But when they put their that's not a word. When they put their heads down into the grass, this is what they're going for. They're going for these little herbaceous plants, and they don't have any wood on them. They often have nutritious flowers, but more often than not, they also have nutritious leaves. Herbert, what is the story? No sign. Okay, we'll go up towards Central. I'm afraid Herbert, despite the fact that he has got a tracker's porcupine quill in his ear, has decided that this direction is not going to work for Tundi. Let us go along this beautiful game path. Oh, Paula, you say, do I have a favourite plant in the bush? I have many, because they have different sort of meaning to me. The first and I suppose favourite plant that I have is the low-felt milkberry, Manilcara mochisa. I love it because it's one of the first trees I learned out here, and it's like a fairy tale tree, really. It looks like it comes out of a Tolkien novel. That's one of my favourites. Then in terms of flowers, I love the smell of the gardenia, the smell of the num-num, the smell of the jasmine. Big mahogany trees, Natal mahogany trees, gorgeous to climb. So those, I suppose, would be some of my top 10. You want me to go in here? What have you got there? some nyalas. Herbert has found some nyalas, everybody. Unfortunately, because his eyes are not unlike the Hubble Space Telescope, most of us can't see them. But he can see them and enjoy them. We just have to take his word for it most of the time. I'm sure he will get us into a position. Do you want to show the sun quickly, David? This is very beautiful. There it is. The sun is beginning its Sunday setting. And soon the night will come. Oh. Okay. I'll continue along here. I do hope that one of those leopards appears. You know, it's so deeply irksome the way so often when there are prospects like that, 2 leopards have been seen, and yet we sometimes just don't manage to get in there. Ooh! David, do you know what plant this is? I don't know that I've seen this plant here before. Have I? I think that this, David, believe it or not, is the Mapani pomegranate. Yes! I nearly swore there. I meant to say, I kid you not, and I nearly said something else. But it makes beautiful yellow flowers. I would like some confirmation on this. I haven't seen one of these trees for a long time. Mapani pomegranate. Please, Judy H., if you're watching on the Sunday afternoon, can you confirm the Mapani pomegranate? I think that's what it is. Oh, what's its Latin name? Something Mozambicum? Something Mozambicum? I think that's what it is. It's not particularly attractive now, but when it gets its flowers, just stunning. That was quite interesting, really. Fascinating. I feel like I may have seen that very tree before. Not many parts of this reserve after 3 years that I haven't at some stage or other driven past or walked over. Rhizogum zambeziacum. Thank you very much. Rhizogum zambeziacum. I'm pretty sure that that's what that was. There we go. That came through from the final control. I'm not sure entirely who looked it up. Sean, you want to know if lavender grows there? Well, it certainly does in my mother's garden. I'm not sure if it doesn't grow naturally here, no. I mean, lavender is I think, a European herb, and so it doesn't grow over here. It certainly doesn't grow in great fields like it does in the rural, bucolic settings of Italy or France. Or Greece, actually. Hello, Aidan, aged 7. You want to know if I ever sleep outside? You can, but you have to sleep up in a tree. So if you wanted to sleep outside, you'd find a tree like this one, and you'd put a hammock in the tree, or you would put a tree house up there, and then you could sleep there. Otherwise, if you want to sleep outside, what you have to do is build a fire, and then you have to have lots of people. You can't just sleep on your own outside over here, because hyenas will come quite often, and lions will come quite often, and so somebody has to stay awake the whole night and keep a lookout for what's going on. Otherwise, can be very dangerous. So no, we don't sleep outside, but you can if you're very careful, and if you have a watch. Okay, good. Let's go back across to Ralph and see if he has found, or see which version of Tingana he's found.
Yes, well, we haven't found anything as yet, everybody, so we're still hot on the trail, but no sign of him just yet. And Seb, we're going into some rough terrain here, so we're just taking all the precautions, and I'm going to be heading just to the road now, and I'm going to make, like we said, we're going to make this circle bigger, and we're going to see if we can pick up on some tracks that he's come out the block, because I'm not going to just now bunda bash through this thick stuff until infinitum. So this is the last little check, and then we go out onto the road and see if we can find some tracks on that side. It's very strange that he's given us the slip. Now, Minamu, that's a very good question. It's mostly to do with the habitat, and that's the reason why leopards thrive here, because it's a very dense and quite thick vegetation. Generally speaking, not always, generally speaking, cheetah don't particularly do that well in this kind of thick vegetation. They can do, however, and I've seen them doing very well in thick vegetation, but the major reason, I think, is because of the concentration of leopard here. And so if the cheetah move in and they start to hunt, these leopards walk around during the day, and I think these cheetah will get their food stolen from them pretty much every time. So they're going to be wasting all that energy and eventually will die from exhaustion, because they're going to expend all that energy chasing animals down and then just to have it stolen. And if they do that 3 or 4 times, they can literally die as quick as a few days. So I think that's the reason, because of the concentration of leopard in this particular area. But there are areas within the Kruger National Park where the cheetah do very well, and I think that's where the concentration of leopard is less. So, and in the Masai Mara as well, where there's very high concentration of leopard and lion, and they seem to stay away from the triangle, the Mara Triangle, and they're all on the other side of the river, where it's very much more open and not that much place for leopard to hide. There are a lot of lion there, but not as much as concentrated on the Mara Triangle side. So that's where it makes a lot of sense to me that that theory then rings true. So we're still now, that's very frustrating. Sometimes you'll almost not even want to know that there's a leopard around here, because if you know that there's one around and you can't find him, it's worse than knowing that there is one and you can't. Now, Kev, thanks for your question. There definitely is a hierarchy around predators, because look at a lion, the biggest and the strongest of all of them. He will, and they will, the females and the males, if they can get a hold of any of the other predators, they will kill them and steal their prey as well. So the lions generally rule the roost amongst predators. The leopards get away with it because they're very wily and they can also go up the trees, and that's immediately what they do when they get a kill. Whereas cheetah, they try to get around it by hunting during the day, and then and finishing their food as quickly as possible. So they eat very quickly. Everything looks like a leopard at this stage. I'm just spotting something over there. So cheetah eat very quickly. No, it's just a couple of logs and a little bit of a brown fawny color at the bottom. Cheetah eat very quickly in the hope that they will have finished the food by the time any of the predators arrive. But they need to eat extremely quickly. And so, as I say, the cheetah is probably the most vulnerable of all those predators. Now, everybody, I'm going to continue, see if I can pick up the tracks of this leopard. While I do that, let's head you on over to James with a tiny little predator.
It ain't so tiny, it's about the same size as my hand. I don't know why I'm talking like that. It is, of course, a golden orb-web spider. Hang on a second, David, there's something really interesting going on here. That we have caught them in flagrante delicto. If you come slowly around this way and look underneath her, there is a male. You got him. Well, that male, everybody, is in the process of doing what many, many golden orb-web spider males try to do and fail, resulting in their own demises. Isn't that fantastic? He's mating. Good on you, son. Well done. Now, I read about these things yesterday, and it is quite astounding what happens. I've never seen this before, and the details of what's going on there are going to be almost impossible for us to see, and I suspect the fact that she's moved has probably disturbed exactly where he was making his deposit. So what he does is he deposits his sperm into her using his pedipalps. Now his pedipalps are sort of mouth parts that are in the front, unsurprisingly, of his mouth. So they're around here. And he does that by, the first thing he has to do is he's got to get the sperm into these little like sort of suction things. They're described as being like the nibs of a fountain pen. So an old school fountain pen that used to dip in the ink, now that's exactly what his pedipalps are like. But he's got to get the sperm into those things from his, what do they call a gonadal sac. And his gonadal sac is underneath, not in a place where he can reach it with his pedipalps. And so he has to he has to weave a small silken sort of cup. Then he makes his deposit into the cup, and then he dips his pedipalps into it. And then, with the pedipalps full of his sperm, he must go and find the female, and then do the dance, and eventually climb on top of her and place those pedipalps in exactly the right spot. And what's interesting is that no two spiders' pedipalps, or no two different species of spiders, have pedipalps that can fit the sexual organs of a female unless they are the same species, if that makes sense. I've said it in a very roundabout way, which means it's a lock and key mechanism. So only the pedipalps of that male will fit into the sexual organs of the female. So if another male spider was to come along here, he would have no luck at all. Isn't that amazing? Ali, you say, why is the female so tiny and the male so big? Well, the male doesn't need to be big. He's got no real purpose other than to be a depositor of sperm. She's so big because the bigger she is, the more eggs she can lay. And apparently, it's really the number of eggs they're able to lay is directly proportional to the size that they're able to attain. Whereas for the males, of course, it doesn't really make a big difference. Now, he's hanging on there for dear life. Kathy, you say, is she going to kill him now? She may well, but we can rest assured, Kathy, that he's going to die the happiest spider on planet Earth this evening. He's just watched a gorgeous sunset. He has just had a wonderful time with his consort, and, well, his purpose as a species or as an individual is served. He has done what evolution made him to do, and so he can die satisfied that his role on planet Earth has been satisfied. Very nice sort of way to close out your life, really, I would think. She, of course, will lay her eggs somewhere in a tree. She'll fold some leaves together, bind them together with silk, lay the eggs inside there, and then she'll drop onto the floor and die. They're annual spiders, so they don't make it more than 1 year. Kia, you're wondering how many eggs she'll have in a sack. I've read, there are lots of different golden orbweb species, and in fact they occur in different parts of the world. They occur in Europe, Africa, Australia, which means they must occur in Asia as well. I've read between 300 and up to 3,000 eggs. And in fact, somebody got so specific that they said they lay 384 eggs per egg sac. That was an Australian species, so I imagine this one is probably slightly different from that. Imagine your job as a researcher at university was to count golden orbweb spider eggs. I feel that you would not be as satisfied that your purpose had been served as much as that male spider, even though he might just be about to sacrifice himself. Yusini, you want to know if he knows he's going to die? Well, let's ask him. Harold, are you aware that you might die? No, he's not. He says very clearly that he is not going to die, that he's very happy where he is, and in fact he's unable to speak because his ecstasy is so complete. Yusini, I promise you that he has absolutely no idea he's going to die. I don't think he has any concept of what death is, frankly. I think there are very few species that have any idea of what death is. Oh, Robert, you say, what's the success rate of the eggs hatching? Probably less than 1%, I'm going to say, Robert. So not hatching. You'll probably find about 80% of them hatch, but you'll find that 1%, if not fewer, make it to actual adulthood. And it's what we call are selection. And animals like this, in fact, lots of organisms like this that lay multiple clutches of eggs that they realize very few will make it to adulthood. So they just lay far, far more than would be required to sort of satiate a population, because they know so few will survive. And then the opposite end of the scale is us, which is K-selection, if I remember correctly. And that means that we have very few offspring, but we invest a whole lot more in parental care. And you probably find that for the same amount of energy, you probably have the same number of offspring that survive to adulthood. Okay. Now, I don't know if the two Tingana hunters have managed to find any Tingana, but it's getting dark now, so we're going to head towards the road. We'll catch up with you a little later.
We are trying. We've come back into this block again because I've done a full loop and I've seen no tracks at all coming out. So we're just being careful because, my goodness, the amount of porcupine warrens that are here and aardvark burrows, we've already fallen into one. Sorry, Brent, might have broken Rusty. Oh, hang on, Johan's calling me. Go, Johan.